Hey everybody, what's going on? Public subscribers, public channel. Mike McFarland here. Forgot a light. Let's get that one back on here. I'm going to give you guys a end of the week rundown. Today is the 15th. It's Friday. It's actually Friday and not Thursday, and I'm filming this on Friday, not Thursday. But it's Friday afternoon. It's been a hot week. It's been a very interesting week. I've actually struggled this week. I have not caught the fish very well. Started out Monday was pretty good. Monday was a good day, but overall I've struggled this week. There are some of my buddies and a few guides that are catching them pretty darn good. And then there's a few guides that aren't. This morning I was even messaged by one guide that he's starting to struggle too. So we're building the thermocline in the lake. It's definitely beginning to build. I saw that today, and I took some video of my sonar today so that I could give an example of what it looks like. The bait fish were literally, you could see the haze, the sonar building, and nothing was in it. Everything was above it. It was really obvious on the sonar that with Lake Fork, there is no oxygen in that thermocline or below it. At least it's very low oxygen. In some lakes, very, very deep lakes, 100, 200, 300 foot type lakes, there can be a layer below it that's cooler water, better oxygenated water, and the fish will actually use that layer. Lake Pleasant in Phoenix, Arizona, Roosevelt Lake in Arizona, some California lakes that are deep, Lake Mead. The ocean does it. In fact, in some cases, you'll have 2 or 3 layers of water, and really that's what a thermocline is. A thermocline is usually about 18 to 24 inches of a change of 2 layers of water. It can build by plankton in the ocean, and it's kind of a cloud of bacteria and content, heavier content in the water, but it's basically 2 different layers. It's a separation. It's a line that's separating 2 different water temperature columns. Ours is right about to 20, 22 foot range. And that's pretty normal for Lake Fork. So the board, let's tell you about the board. We talked to you on Tuesday. I think that post went up on Wednesday. We were right around the 39644 level. Since then, we've dropped down 39637. We're starting to drop fast. Just in 2 days, we're looking at the difference from Monday to Wednesday versus from Wednesday to Friday. We're starting to drop fast. The heat, the evaporation rate is high. The usage is high, but 0 to 1 foot visibility. And then some rain yesterday morning changes the temperature. 86.7 this morning and 88 when I came off the lake. That is cooler than it was. So yesterday's little rain didn't change any lake level, but that morning spell seemed to cool things down a little bit. And back to the lake. We're talking about the lake. The thermocline's not everywhere on Lake Fork. So you got 2 choices. If you are fishing where that thermocline stuff is, that big haze, you'll see it on your sonar. Fish above it or get out of there and go find somewhere where it doesn't exist. You're better off to find somewhere where it doesn't exist if you can, because that way you can fish your bottom. They're not always shallow. And so the 20, 22 foot range, 16 to 20 foot range seems to be the best bite right now. But so if you're where the thermocline is, find ridges, find humps, find long points that are above it, 12, 14, 16, 18 feet. If you want to, you can spend some time offshore sonaring using your side scan and go find one of them big giant oak trees that's in 55 feet of water, 45 to 55 feet of water. And the tops of that oak tree will split the thermocline. So you'll have, they have something to suspend in, if that makes any sense. That was a Mark Pack secret. Now, catching those fish is a whole other game. The best way to catch those suspending fish is to use like a weightless Cinco or a weightless fluke. Add a couple nail weights in it just for sink rate to get it down there, because it takes forever to sink down to 18, 20 feet. But if you could find some ideal offshore full trees right now, the full oak tree that still exists in deep, deep water, those fish will suspend in those timbered tree limbs, etc., that are above the thermocline. That's a really cool deal, but easier said than done. The other factor that I will tell you about Lake Fork that's kind of weird is Man, I watched two guys this morning set up on a road. I'm sitting in 22 feet throwing up to 15, 16, pulling off the edge of the long point. And I watched two guys set up on the 10 foot and fish probably to 6 to 10 foot of water and actually catch some fish. They're still scattered. They're still shallow. They're still a major brim spawn. Excuse me. There is still a topwater bite early in the morning. This morning, where I started, they started erupting all over the place. There's really a lot going on that's different for July in Lake Fork. And then there's a lot that's normal, that you would normally find. You got to do a lot of looking. You have to run your sonar and do your homework. If you run into the right schools and the right stuff, you'll smack them. You will smack them. Here's the best part about this time of year. And some guys say, well, I just don't want to work that hard. I don't want to use a sonar. Once you find them, you found them. And they're probably going to be there for the rest of the month. So they'll be there next weekend and the following weekend and probably be right there through August because it's a summer hole. It's like finding them in the winter. Once you find them in the winter, that's where they are. And they're not, nothing's going to change. Until we warm and trend back up out of cold water, they don't change. So we are going to stay hot. With that, I'm trying to give you the weather right now. The next 5, 7, 10 days, it's still hot. It's still 100 degrees, mid-70s for the lows at night. And you can grind and fish humps and things like that, roads and points shallow. And if you run into a few bites here and there, make a day out of it. Hindsight, that's what I've kind of been doing this week. It's just running spots, hit 7 to 10 spots and get a bite here and a few there. Hindsight, you get behind the wheel and go find them. That's it. They'll be grouped up. They won't be alone. There'll be a lot of them when you find them. And that's the key. So there's a full moon going on. I also recommend if you like night fishing, it's perfect to night fish right now. This full moon should limit the amount of spawning brim. Brim will continue to spawn all the way through August. They always do, even later. That's Mother Nature's way. So do the bass. The bass start spawning February, March, and don't finish till June. And so the brim spawn is still there. But right now, there is still a lot of brim spawn going on. So a crankbait thrown in the right place on the brim spawn area is also an excellent way to crush them. Crush them. But again, you got to get behind the wheel. You got to go find a brim bed. You got to go find a brim bed that has brim in it. And then you're in the right spot. So that's it. That's kind of the gist of what's going on. Watch the weather. Stay hydrated. Go fish at night. It's a lot nicer at night. I expect the next few of the weekend should be pretty cool. There's a few night lights to fish in a few of the creeks. Not much because most of the docks are out of water due to our 6.5 now becoming 6 2/3 or 6 3/4 low lake, below the 6 3/4, 6 feet 3/4 below full pool, which also concerns me. I had someone made some comments on the last rundown where I discussed that I was worried about the lake being low and getting lower and going all the way to the 8 or 9 foot range. And someone made a comment, hey Mike, that's a good thing. When the lake comes back, we'll have new lake syndrome. So real quick, I want to do two things. I want to clarify why I'm worried and then back up that 100%. I am worried not because of any other reason than the stumps and the traveling on Lake Fork. It has never been more than 8 or 9 feet low. 8.7 feet, I think, is the lowest it's ever been since it was impounded. So once we get below 9 feet, in other words, we get to 10 feet low pool, 11 feet low pool, it's unexplored. And those buoys are not safe. There are stumps in the buoys already, and there will be more in those buoys when we get that low. And when we have that much more slack on the buoys, they're drifting that much farther. So they are not where you need to be. The buoys are starting to become unsafe. And I really feel that if we get to a 9, 10 foot low level or more, I could be wrong, and I need to call the Sabine River Authority and confirm this. But I think they might pull the buoys. I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But this is why I have concerns. If we do not get fall rain, we could end up in trouble by next spring, by next February or March, and that's my worry. If this lake is 9 or 10 feet low or more, I don't know what to expect. I don't. Fish-wise, it'll be okay. The fish will be fine. They adapt. They're not messed up. Right now, the fish aren't going to tell us, man, I wish I had 6 foot of water back. They just adapt, and they're survivalists, and they're doing something different than we're used to. They're using places that are different than we're used to, and some of the places that we are used to. But fish survive, they move on. Now, as far as the water coming back up, yes, we will absolutely have New Lake syndrome. The longer it stays down, the more that the things grow out of water, the more that the button willow trees grow and the bushes grow, the better. The grasses themselves will erode immediately. As soon as the water comes back up, all those grasses will go away within weeks. But the bushes and the more that those bushes and things can get, the size of my pinky, the size of my thumb, finger, get some stoutness to it, the longer they will last in the water. The weeds and the grass will go away pretty quick. However, we will have New Lake syndrome. So there'll be a window when that lake comes back up into that shoreline vegetation, not water vegetation, but the dry vegetation that's grown since the low lake. It's going to be epic, and they're going to love it. So I do hope we get some September rains that bring it up 2 or 3 feet, put it into some of that vegetation, give us a really, really awesome fall here. I don't want the kind of flooding that fills it, because it means hurricanes down south. We just don't get water here in the fall unless there's hurricanes, tropical weather, big tropical depressions that come up the Gulf Coast. And nobody wants to see Houston or Beaumont or any of those places go underwater like they have in the past, or Louisiana get hit. Nobody wants to see this. It's part of life. It's part of the coast. It's part of living there. That's what it would take to fill our lakes in September. But Texas needs the rain. We need it all. Pray for it. Pray that it comes nicely. Pray that prayers get answered, and God is amazing. So who knows? But man, I appreciate you all. Fishing is good. Don't think it's not. Like I said, there's a few guides out there and a few of my friends. I'm not going to say names. I just don't want to, respect to them. But I have a friend yesterday who just beat the brakes off them. Between a big worm and a crankbait, he smacked them. I've got a guide or two friend that I know is smacking them. We talked about Michael Samples last week. I'm okay to say his name. Man, go check him out. Go find him on Facebook. Michael Samples is beating the brakes off these fish on a daily basis. He did his homework somehow, and one of these days he went out there, put his head down, and somehow found them. And well, not somehow, but he did his homework. That's the somehow. He found those fish. And once he keyed in and found them, he's got some areas that they're holding, they're in there, and he's catching them. And so don't be afraid to come here. Stay hydrated. If you want to know more details about what I'm doing, there's some particular baits. I talked about topwater bite still. I talked about a crankbait bite. I've got a worm bite going on. I got a Carolina rig bite going on. If you want to know more details about what those baits are, I'm fixing to do a members only. As soon as I'm finished with you guys in this public rundown, I do a members follow-up. The members gives a rule of 3, which tells the areas that I'm fishing, and the members shows the baits, shows the colors, gives the descriptions of how I'm using them. If you're interested in that, just go to one of my regular videos, hit the join button. It's best to do it on your desktop or laptop. It's quicker that way. Sometimes on the phone, iPhones and things, it's really difficult to get subscribed. But it's $4.99 a month. You can't, man, a gallon of gas is doing that. So you go around for a gallon. If you go around and burn a bunch of fuel looking for these fish, you're better off to spend $4.99 and subscribe to my members only, and I'll tell you where they are. All right? So that's pretty much what's going on. Thank you for your original subscription. Your public subscription is greatly appreciated. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this one. Comment below. I briefly tapped on the thermocline, but I'm going to give some detailed information on the thermocline in the future and the lake turnover. What causes the lake to turn over, and some really in-depth understanding for everybody what a turnover really is, and how it affects the lake overall and the fish overall. We'll get to that in another few weeks. But as the thermocline comes in here in the next few weeks, you will hear me more and more talk about it, and I will make sure that you understand. All right? That's it. I really appreciate you so much. God bless you all. Have a great weekend this weekend. If someone catches a giant fish and you want to share it with me, please do. All right? I'm Mike McFarland, the Lake Fork Guy.